we will see people jumping into the room. I always chuckle now seeing all the AI note takers. There's almost a one-to-one soon. It's like, how many humans do we have? How many robots do we have? I'm not sure which
Yeah, man.
which measure is better. I'm gonna close this out. All right. Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome back. So many familiar faces. Mark Osborne, good to see you. You're right in the center of my screen. You got the center square in Hollywood Squares today. Eric, good to see you. I see people coming in. Love it that people are finding time on a Friday to join us. This is so cool. For all of you veterans, we love to keep the cameras on and the microphones off unless you want to share a question or comment. It makes it so much easier to present, to keep the energy high. And if you are Zoom fluent, we encourage you to rename yourself to include your organization name, just so we know where you're coming from. And just to warm up your fingers, because this is a mastermind, we want to chat up live. Have you heard of this Philly's Karen incident? I am from Philadelphia, so of course it had my attention. But this Philly's Karen was like the new internet villain. So, Jen, hello, happy Friday. Sonia has an all caps yes. Gabe's got a lowercase yes. I like Eric's like, oh yeah, we saw that. Saw it on social media. It's
You're not
everywhere.
going to let us know that you're related to her, are you, Kevin?
Do I have a resemblance, maybe? Welcome in, everyone. I love it. Yeah. Wonder how often these incidents happen before social media. Sonia, it's amazing. I do think there's a lot of this stuff that, like, bad behavior, now that we all have a camera in our hands, it's just getting captured more. Somehow it doesn't seem to be changing behaviors either. It's kind of odd. Alex, Tampa International Airport, Tampa, Florida. Yeah, I'm going to play a little video, Justin. So if someone doesn't know about the Philly's Karen incident, one, it means you're not living on social media like the rest of us, and we all applaud you. You're better than us. And don't worry, I'm going to play a video clip to catch us all up to speed. Well, let's dive into things a little bit. I'm going to mute the mood music. That song was called Presence from Someone Called Justice. Every month I get to discover a new song because, of course, we want to tie it into our guest speaker. So this one was called Presence. And if we haven't met yet, welcome. I am Kevin Kruse. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I've written 12 books. I'm the CEO and founder of LeadX, where we help companies improve manager effectiveness through our live workshops, our EQ training, and our digital platform. And if that introduction of myself sounded a little different, it's because I'm using the UPI framework that I learned from Lorraine Lee. She picked it up too. Look at all these hearts I'm getting. And you're going to hear about the UPI framework in just a few minutes. This, of course, is our monthly community of practice event. If this is the first time you're here, say newbie or first time in the chat. We'd love to know. I know we made a lot of new friends at SHRM this year, at ATD this year, and we are just spreading the word. Lahari, Bethany, welcome. And Adolf, Monica, nice to see some fresh perspectives, fresh personalities. Love it, Nella. And everybody in the community, please make them feel welcome. The more we share in the chat, the better, of course. And this is an invitation-only community, so there's no vendors, coaches, etc. LeadX limits to a real soft pitch up front, and we want this to be your time. We are going to have a slightly different agenda today. We are going to be talking to our guest author of Unforgettable Presence. If you are in this meeting, you're going to get a free copy of that book, by the way. And a new segment we're going to experiment called Hot Take, where we're going to have two different strong opinions. You're going to vote on which one we're going to discuss, and we can discuss all of them. And then we will end with the top 5 plays of the month. And of course, as always, I have my friend, my co-host. He is the director of commercial excellence at Terumo, Dwayne Best. Dwayne, how are you?
I'm upset because you did not use her strategy to introduce me, Kevin.
I did not. You're going to have to learn it and come back with it. Dwayne, I feel like I never am getting the company name right. Is it Turumo? Like, where's the accent?
Yeah, I don't even think you have to do. It's a Japanese company, but you can just say Terumo.
Turumo. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I'm
here's the
overthinking
thing:
it.
my name's Dwayne. It's not Douanier, right? It's just Dwayne, right? It's
Now
just
you tell
so
me,
just.
knowing you all these years, now you're telling me I've been mispronouncing your name all this time. Dwayne, did you see? I know you're not a huge sports guy, but I also know you are a social media guy. So did you see the Phillies Karen incident?
I did. I was super surprised when she trudged over. Well, actually, the first thing when I saw, she really startled the heck out of that father, didn't she? When she,
Yeah.
I mean, he just jumped, and I'm like, okay, what's going to go on? What's unfolding? And I'm like, oh, she actually. Oh, wow, this is taking place. I was really surprised that she actually did that. I really was.
And this is it's interesting because this was a dispute over a home run ball between two Philadelphia Phillies fans, but it wasn't even in Philadelphia. And let me play the video. Let me play a little video for us to make sure we're all remembering it the same way. Let me hit play here.
The woman spot shot on the left, going to put the fight-ins in fighting.
It's the grab now seen around the globe. Phillies fans scrambling after Harrison Bader sent a home run ball flying into the stands during Friday's game against the Marlins. One man emerging victorious, gifting the ball to his son who was celebrating a birthday. But watch as a woman storms over to them.
His dad gets the ball for his kid. Nice family moment. What? Until she decided to ruin it. She said, I saw it first. The ball wasn't even in the row.
That father and son, Andrew and Lincoln Feltwell, now speaking out about the catch and confrontation on GMA.
Heard the crack of the bat, watched the ball go up in the air, and I knew it was going to the right, but I didn't know where. So I just started going to the right a little bit, hit a chair and bobbled between the armrests, and I picked it up, turned around, and felt like Super Dad, walked back to Lincoln, put it in his glove, and gave him a hug.
It was exciting getting our first home run ball ever from all our games.
Andrew and Lincoln say they had no idea what was about to happen next in this now viral moment caught on camera.
When she screamed in my ear, that's when everybody saw how shocked I was. And, when I turned, I had to lean back because she was really close. She had many, many inappropriate words to say around my kids.
All right, I'm going to cut that there. Now, Dwayne, do you recall, so what happened for that boy later in that game? Do you recall that part? How did it end? Who knows?
No, I don't recall. I don't recall that part. I do know that the player ended up meeting up, and he had a meet and greet with the player, and the player gave him a ball and everything. But I don't recall what took place, Kevin.
Yeah, so Katie and some of the other folks, Robin saw this. So it turned out it was a nice thing where the batter, Bader, ended up giving him a signed bat, and the Marlins gave him a big gift bag. And so it turned out to be like better than even grabbing the home run ball. So it was a happy inning for the boy. And this is like it was referenced almost like that Coldplay moment, slightly different. We have an internet villain. And I will say that while most of us would agree this Philadelphia Karen acted out not in a great way, in a lot of these incidents, there is another side, right? Does anyone in the chat want to type kind of like if you were to defend her side, what might that be? Because there is a counter argument. See if anyone wants to take that. Yeah, the ball was by her.
Going to be courageous.
So there's sort of an etiquette, right, in the baseball thing. It's like it comes to your area, everyone stands up, reaches, and then there's a scrum in that area. And the father kind of went pretty far over into her area. So that would be Philadelphia Karen's side of it. Now, why am I introducing all of this? Because this is a perfect example of, let me move over here. What we talk about, let's talk about that aftermath. Internet's been brutal, right? I won't pile on, but we have Philadelphia Karen stealing a Frisbee from a dog. How dare she do that? And then people saying you can get, the Philadelphia Karen Halloween costume action figure. You can actually buy merch now. Like, this is crazy. And we have to assume, we don't know because no one's actually interviewed her. We don't know who she is in the real world. she probably regrets this. Even if she doesn't regret her action, she's certainly regretting being this infamous person on the internet. And this is an example that we see through the lens of emotional intelligence of what's going on with an emotional hijack, right? And in our course, we often will use the Will Smith at the Oscars incident. Well, this is the same kind of thing that we can see it, right? And once we understand some real simple neuroscience, you start to see it. Certainly in cases like this, we can also see it in the conference room with our colleagues down the road. Now, this is a gross simplification, but our eyes, our body has senses. We see things, we hear things, we smell things. Do I smell smoke? And it goes into the thalamus, the processing area. And then next it goes into the amygdala, which is the threat processing system, right? And it's really close, and it's in the center part of the brain. So back when we were cavemen, our reptilian brain, that was like, oh, do I need to fight? Do I need to flee? Do I need to freeze? Now, as we evolved, our brain got bigger, and we developed a frontal cortex in the front, which is like the CEO of our mind. And so what we see is that our senses happen, we perceive a threat, and we chemically respond with hormones way faster than we can process what's happening, right? So if we think about the woman who had the ball stolen from her, right? So she was attacked, this was theft, whatever it was, she expressed threat and she immediately reacted as we saw. In the dad's case, we saw him get startled. He's literally physically shaking. So she's yelling at him, she's touching him, confronting him. He's under a threat, but he was able to pause and choose a response. He responded with grace, kindness, gave the ball back to her, and it turned out. The fact that our brain works this way is why emotional intelligence is so important. Emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and others, and your ability to use the awareness to manage your behavior, to manage your relationships, using the classic Goleman, now Travis Bradbury model, that goes from self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. The more I lean into EQ, the more I'm seeing emotional hijacks and lack of self-awareness over and over again. Philadelphia Karen reminds us all about the power of the pause. You don't want to react, you want to respond. All of you told us last year that EQ was going to be the #1 training priority in 2025. And my final reminder is that if you want to develop EQ in your organization, you've got two options with partnering with LeadX. One, you can become a LeadX EQ certified trainer yourself, or you can invite us to come in and run workshops for you. If you want any information on this, easiest thing is drop an email to evan@leadx.org. Any of us can help you. And if you just want to try it out, like a showcase, hey, Kevin, let me see what your content's all about. Let's see the quality of the interactions. Let's see that Will Smith Oscars video. We've got 2 showcase workshops coming up. They're an hour each. They're free. You and your colleagues are invited. Again, more information, hit evan@leadx.org. How are we feeling, Dwayne? I know you were already a master of EQ and came to our course as well. You would have been that nice dad, I bet, wouldn't you?
Or my son, yes. My daughter, I think I would have forfeited my EQ. No, but no, I do think first and foremost, shout out to the EQ course that you all put on. I think it's one of the more realistic ones of how to actually apply EQ in your daily lives. Sometimes you talk about theory, but you leave away some courses not knowing how to apply it, and you all do a really nice job with that. But I will say, it's I think this topic, we have 134 people on this call, and you kicking off with EQ couldn't be more timely, Kevin, because I think right now in the US, we all need a time to pause and practice EQ and not just look at snippets of stories, but to really get full context and lead with a little more empathy and understanding. So perfect timing, brother.
Here's to empathy and understanding. Thank you, Dwayne. You're always, among other things, you are here to bring out the best in all of us. I appreciate that. Let's move on to our featured guest. I am excited. She is a keynote speaker, instructor with LinkedIn Learning and Stanford. She's a top voice on LinkedIn with over 300,000 followers. I'm so jealous. Her insights have appeared in CNBC, Bloomberg, Fast Company. She is, of course, the author of Unforgettable Presence, Please welcome Lorraine Lee. Hey, Lorraine.
Hello, thank you for the warm
Welcome.
welcome. Great to see all of you.
And I want to remind everyone, Lorraine, before we dive into it, that you are here because we are celebrating your book and teasing people about it. Because if you're on this call, you get a free copy of the book. You just need to tell us where to send it because we don't want book returns or unread books, etc. So Evan is dropping a link. He already dropped a link in the chat. You just tell us your preferred shipping address and it's on its way. So Lorraine, I'm going to dive right into it because, and normally I hold up the book, but I'm in a different place and I've got a Kindle version. So I'm not going to show my Kindle version.
Sounds good.
Right out of the gates, Lorraine, you said something powerful in the book. You said, and with this audience, everybody knows what personal branding is and executive presence, that they get it. They know it's important. And you say, look, so many people talk about like the how to do it, but equally important is, especially these days, it's the where to do it. Now, tell me what you mean by that.
The whole premise of the book is redefining what presence means. So, like you said, Kevin, like we hear the word presence. Usually people will think, oh, executive presence, I'm of a certain seniority level. It's how I show up in the boardroom. It's an in-person thing. And what I'm arguing is that presence is something that we should be thinking about through all aspects of our career. It happens also in the small moments, whether it's the small talk in the hall, whether it's how you're leading the meeting, whether it's how you're advocating for yourself. And so I define presence as both how you're seen and also where you're seen because COVID happened and now many of us communicate virtually. So you have a video presence, you have a LinkedIn presence, your presence in a chat channel, your presence in an email. All of these things influence how people perceive you and your reputation. So presence is a little bit more holistic, I think, and something that is learnable and can happen again in those small actions in a given day that really build up your reputation over time.
Lorraine, it's I think that's such a simple and yet powerful thing to keep in mind because I think in the old days or even now if we have a in-office day, that sort of clicks something on. We're like, oh, I'm gonna wear the collared shirt and the slacks and I'm gonna be at my best and all smiley and everything in the hallways. It's like sort of assumed in the office we're that way, and yet it's so easy for me to just take the virtual for granted and type something in Slack or in Teams without really thinking about it. Or I was typed fast and I did see there's 2 typos and I just don't care because I'm moving fast. And it's not really cool, right? So we need to be as mindful of it in the digital world as the physical world.
Yeah, exactly. And I talk about how video can really be a superpower because to your point, Kevin, like we all think in person is a better experience. So we're sort of like, oh, video is sort of the thing we're forced into, but we're actually on video a lot. So being intentional about it, it doesn't have to be complicated, but being thoughtful about how you show up, how you communicate, all that is very important. And similarly, Slack, email, like sometimes these are the only ways that we actually talk to our coworkers, especially if we're not in person. And so those moments become very, very important.
Yeah, love it, love it. Now, I'm a big fan of acronyms. I always say, we have all these great theories and ideas, but if we can't remember it, we're not going to apply it. And you've got a great one called like building your epic, EPIC, epic career brand. Tell me about epic.
I also love acronyms. For anyone who gets the book, you will see many in the book. But EPIC I created because when we think about building a personal brand or career brand, to your point, it can be kind of difficult to know where to start. So I really boiled it down to these 4 criteria that we can start thinking through as we think about our brand and the story that we want to tell others. So EPIC stands for experiences, personality, identity, and community. And so experiences, these are going to be the professional and personal experiences that made you who you are today, that got you to where you are. We have personality. So what are the soft human skills that make you you? I'm more introverted, for example. So like I want to make sure people know that. That's part of my brand. I talk about it on LinkedIn. Identity, this can be your cultural background. So, I'm an Asian American woman. It can be the values that you operate by at work. So if we were to work together, Kevin, what can you expect from me? What do I value? So for example, relationships are really important to me. That's part of my identity. And then the last piece, the C, community, this is where a lot of people miss the mark or they forget. Your network needs to see you the way that you want to be seen. So if I'm thinking my brand is something here, but everyone's seeing me as something here, there's a big disconnect and we need to figure out what's happening with that disconnect. And we also want to make sure that our community or our network knows about our brand and even knows that we exist in the first place so that they can talk about us when we're not there, right? They can speak our names in the rooms that we're not in.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to jump right into the UPI, which I teased in my intro. Half the time, Lorraine, I mean, all the audience here doesn't really care. Half the time at the end of these community of practice things, I'll be like, you know what? I just launched in. I never even said, hi, my name is Kevin Kruse. Like, I just forget to even introduce myself. So that for those who've been coming along for a couple of years, they're like, what is Kevin doing? This is a slightly different introduction.
Yeah.
So what does UPI stand for? And more importantly, how do we put a great one together?
Yes, so UPI stands for Unique and Powerful Introduction. And I came up with an acronym for this because, like you said, Kevin, and I'm sure many of you in the audience have experienced, like we get on a call with a new client, with a new teammate, and introductions have become such a throwaway moment. Like we just don't think about them. We go through them so quickly. We spend like 5 seconds. But if you can spend 15 seconds, 20 seconds, which is still not very much time, to just share a little bit more about yourself, it gives the person who you're speaking to so much more information about who you are. You come across as more confident, more credible, right? All these things. And so I'll give an example. My old teammate, she was more junior, and when we would get on calls working with a lot of external business influencers, she would introduce herself saying something like, "Oh, I sit on Lorraine's team. I'm an editor." And while that's accurate, she's leaving a lot on the table, right? Like she does a lot of things besides just being on my team. So instead, we changed that to, "Hi, I'm an editor. I sit on Lorraine's team and I'm in charge of the blog and social media. And, we're collaborating with business influencers to really evangelize or share out their content." And again, that was like 5, 10 extra seconds. And now the person has learned so much more about her and understands what can they go to, what can they go to her for, the blog, social media. Okay, she works with a business audience, so much more information with just an extra sentence or two.
Yeah, and what I love about that is I think often people think about presence or personal branding as like salesy. Oh, it's my it's my elevator pitch that I'm trying to convince you to buy this thing from me.
Yep.
Oh, I help people, protect their assets and their family. Oh, you want to sell me life insurance or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And so it gets a little bit of negative brand. And you're saying you just got to give people context so they'll know when to think of you, how they can lean on you, get support from you, become friends with you, all the above.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right?
and make it helps create conversation too. Like you said, like elevator pitch has that negative connotation of, oh, I'm selling something, but you can use your UPI in different situations. So yes, certainly on a team call, at a networking event too, right? And your UPI will change depending on where you are. So at a networking event, you might share something else, right? Like what brought you to the event or what got you into this industry, whatever makes sense in the context. And now if I give you a little bit something more besides just my title and the company I work for, now Kevin, you can latch onto something and say, "Oh, that's interesting. Like tell me more or explain that or oh, I know someone who does something similar I can connect you to." So it just leads to more fruitful conversation and connection as well.
Yeah, that's great. Now I'm going to shift over because you give great advice in the book, but even without reading the book, I could see you practice it. You have incredible LinkedIn game, and let's start with, you say, look, LinkedIn isn't just about when you're looking for a job or looking for
Yes.
the next job.
Mhm.
In your mind, what is the right way we should be thinking about LinkedIn, and then give us some practical advice about building an unforgettable presence on LinkedIn.
Sure. Well, I'd be curious. So the group, just let me know in the chat, like give me a yes if you're posting regularly on LinkedIn. I'll be curious to see it. And a no if you're not, which is fine. So like you said, LinkedIn has been known to be a job site. It's a great job site, but it's really become our virtual landing page, our virtual water cooler, and really our ultimate virtual office. So we want to be seen there. And if we think about people we meet in person at a networking event or a colleague, where are we going first to learn more about that person? We're going to LinkedIn before searching for any sort of website. And so having a really strong LinkedIn presence is going to be critical, right? People are making, again, assumptions, judgments, for better or for worse. They're going on your page and making an opinion about you. So I remember talking to this person. She said, "Oh, I met the CEO in person. He was super impressive. I went to his LinkedIn. Half the things were missing on his profile." And I wondered, like, was he actually as impressive as I thought? There was that really big disconnect. And the really powerful thing about LinkedIn, again, we talked about virtual presence. People can form a really positive impression of you before ever meeting you. Like when you reached out to me on LinkedIn, Kevin, I go to your page, I'm like, wow, this guy's legit. I hadn't even talked to you yet, right? But you're making assumptions look based on the profile. And as you start posting more, you start staying top of mind. And, obviously virality is great. You get to meet new people and get engagement and all that. But really the power of LinkedIn, I think, lies in the relationships. And oh my gosh, so many doors, so many opportunities have come my way simply by being active on LinkedIn and giving back to the community, trying to share my insights and help people.
Yeah, Lorraine, it's interesting because back when I was young and dumb, I remember someone, I was dressing horrible. I was already, I was 30 years old, running a business, dressed horribly, and I just didn't care because to me it was about who cares what my clothes are? They're just functional, right? Keeping me warm. And he explained that no, you need to have a better watch. You need to dress a certain way. And I'm like, that it shouldn't be that way. They should, judge me on my values, judge me on my accomplishments. And he says, just because you want the world to be that way doesn't mean that's the way the world is.
Yeah.
And so that first impression, they're gonna judge you in some way by what you wear. I now think the LinkedIn page, your LinkedIn profile, is the new dress for success. So right or wrong, I'm not saying it should be that way.
Yeah.
It just is that way. And I know so many people who the first thing, and people can comment in the chat about this, where the first thing they do when they go to someone's LinkedIn page is they look at how many connections they have. So LinkedIn, when you have over 500 connections, it goes 500 plus. So you don't really know if they've got 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever, but you see if they've got less than 500, it'll be like 127. And they're judging, like, do you have any mojo? How connected are you? Are you a person of any power? And I don't mean to disparage anyone who's below 500 now. I'm just sharing what I hear and I think is kind of true in the world, that a first impression of all of us is often LinkedIn, and it's often the number of connections, and 500 is kind of that number. Lorraine, have you heard similar things?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced it myself too. Sometimes when, the connection number of connections is lower than 500, you sort of wonder, it feels like a newer profile. Sometimes you wonder if it's spam, right? So there's definitely those preconceived notions that come with it. Again, like for better or for worse, right? We're all trying to make mental shortcuts in a day, and we're busy. And so that is one of the factors. Your headline, your background photo, your profile picture, all of these things are top of full, right? So it's really important to make sure that you've nailed all those as I think the first step if you're trying to improve your LinkedIn presence.
Yeah, I might have more follow-ups on that, but we are getting some questions. So I want to go to the questions in the chat, and people feel free to raise your digital hand, and Eva can call on you that way. So you meant Alex is asking, is elevating presence harder for introverts than extroverts? You mentioned you're an introvert, right?
This is an interesting question. I would say it's only harder in the sense of it feels like corporate America is built for extroverts. But I talk about the experience of introverts in the book as well. Introverts have a lot of superpowers. So when I learned what those are, I felt like the world was my oyster, and I could really lean into those superpowers. So, for example, relationships are really important at work, right? I would say it's one of the most foundational pieces. Introverts are really great at one-on-one conversations. And so you might not be the person speaking up all the time in a big team meeting, but you're really going to get to know your colleagues, and you're going to learn about their life, and you're going to make them feel good. And next time you need a favor or something's happening at the company, like they're going to feel a closeness to you and want to share that with you. So relationship building, super key. One other one that I think is quite untraditional that surprises people is introverts are really great public speakers. Again, speaking on the fly, kind of scary. Maybe not something we're like as excited about, but prepared public speaking, like a presentation at an all hands or a team functional meeting, Introverts are well prepared, they're very thoughtful. Again, they want to understand who their audience is, they want to be intentional and make sure that it's helping people. So, all of those things are really important anytime you're presenting. So, introverts have a lot of superpowers. I know sometimes it can feel hard at work. It feels like, oh gosh, all the loud people are getting the attention, but it's about being strategic, thoughtful, intentional about the moments that you do show up and you do make sure that your presence is seen and felt.
You just rattled that off, but I want to capture it. Strategic, thoughtful, and intentional, right? Love it.
Yes.
Love it. And then I like this one from Rick. How is presence different than likability? I'm not sure I've even thought that. Like, similar, separate? Can someone have great presence but not be likable?
I think that's possible. I mean, we want to have an overlap of the two because, again, like relationships, again, very important at work, and people want to work with people they like, right? So there's an important element to be likable to a certain extent. And then the presence, I think, just amplifies everything. If you're likable and people are seeing you in the right places, you're being seen by the right people at the right times, if you have gravitas and you are a strong communicator, all these things, I mean, they're just going to be an accelerant to your career. So I see them as kind of separate, but also like you want to have the intersection of the two.
I want to bring the Dwayne Bess in on this for a second. So Dwayne, I'm curious when it comes to presence. I've shared with this group, I've been lucky enough to share a stage with you once or twice. And Dwayne, I think you have incredible presence, right? And some of it I'd be able to describe like, oh, it's because you do this, this, and this. Others, it's like I'm not sure if it's the gravitas or something else. Dwayne, how do you think about presence? How much of what you're doing is intentional? And is any of this resonating that Lorraine is sharing?
I think it all really resonates with me. And I think when it comes to presence, especially presence on a stage or in front of an audience, it has to do with, to Lorraine's point, the preparation that you put into it. If you are prepared and you are infatuated with what you do, but more importantly, your authentic self comes out, that's when things really start to sing. So are you speaking about things that are within your scope that you're passionate about? Because it's going to come out. Like if you talk to someone who's an introvert, but you find a topic that excites them, all of a sudden they come out of the box and it's like, whoa, look at this person just light up. So I would just say, my kind of equation for that is stay in your lane, be authentic, and be prepared. And if you do those things, that presence actually comes out because it comes across as confidence and likability and, those type of things. So that's what I would say to that part, Kevin.
Yeah, appreciate that, Dwayne. Lorraine, we're getting a couple different comments.
I did have a question though I did have a question for Lorraine though.
Yeah.
For individuals that are seeking to have a stronger presence on LinkedIn, but they don't have the time. Let's say they're individual contributor and they're like, Lorraine, I'm not trying to promote a book, but I want to have a presence. Do you have any tips or strategies for these individuals to kind of engage the public, engage LinkedIn, but not take a lot of their time?
Sure, yeah, it can really be another full-time job, right? Being active on LinkedIn. So yes, there are definitely ways. So I talk about the profile being sort of that foundational first piece. So with the assumption that, you all have a great profile, the next step that I would recommend is to start commenting on LinkedIn. I know posting is quite intimidating for a lot of people, totally normal. Even when I worked at LinkedIn and my job was to post content, I would still get nervous. So it takes some time to sort of get over that hump. But commenting is a much lower stakes way to get your voice out there, to practice sharing your insights, to making connections. That doesn't require maybe sort of the scariness of like, oh my gosh, a unique post going out from my account. So I would say start commenting first, but make sure the comments are adding something of value, right? At every touch point, I want to learn something about you. So if you just say great post or very interesting, that's not telling me much. But if you say great post, I would add X, Y, and Z, or really interesting, have you thought about this? Now I'm getting a sense, I'm learning a little bit more about you. Someone's going to click through to your profile. You're going to still grow followers and gain a presence that way.
Joanne, I'm glad you asked that question because that was going to be, I was going to combine some of them as like different ways to go about it. And I think that Lorraine, you hit it. So many people seem to get frozen because they feel like I have to go post some inspirational or epic essay every day.
Groundbreaking something, yeah.
And I think so. We and just speaking candidly, business wise. So for example, we just landed an EQ contract that happened through a DM on LinkedIn many months ago. And it wasn't to that person, it was to someone that person referred us to. So it wasn't one of Evan Watkins' great articles that then led to this thing. It wasn't one of our posts. We do all those things, but just as powerful and maybe more powerful, it is that thoughtful comment on the post. It's a thoughtful, not spammy, DM in the box and showing up. It's like, don't just show up once a month and do it out. If someone's putting thoughtful comments on my posts for a while, I do know who they are. I do know where they work, and I do remember. It takes the consistency, right?
Exactly. And that's quite hard, consistency. That's why most people drop off, but it's very important.
Yeah, if you have, Lorraine, we're gonna be moving on to the next segment, but this was really a hot topic, and chat had a lot of good comments and questions. So if you are able to stick around and answer any of those in chat,
I'll do
that would be great. And we know that we've already gone over the allotted time. So I just want to say congratulations on your book. Everyone here is going to get a copy. Thanks for being a friend of LeadX, and we will have you back on soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. I'll be in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Lorraine. Dwayne, you have kind of a natural, awesome LinkedIn game going on, and that you do, well, tell everybody, like you kind of theme some days, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do. I theme Monday to get my day started, Wednesday, and then traditionally Friday. And it's just things I've been compelled to, I've been pondering on. It's either something that I'm struggling with and I'm thinking about, or some random experience I've had. And I try to look for leadership moments or selling moments in my life. And because they show up in the strangest ways. If it's me traveling to the airport or if it's me working out in the gym, I find these leadership and sales moments, right? And I always, so I talk about them in that way. It's easier for me to do that.
Yeah, I love it. And it becomes almost like a journal of your own growth and insights and things along the way. I love it. All right, we are going to move on to a brand new segment. You guys know we're always experimenting with the community of practice, and we're calling this one Hot Take. So speaking of LinkedIn, in the last 30 days, I had two posts that kind of kicked up a little bit of a dust storm. I like to spark conversation. Now, the one that you see on the left, your CEO's number one priority is delayering. And it's talking about how we've moved, according to, was it Gallup research, someone else's research? This was an article in the Wall Street Journal. In 2017, on average, one manager had 5 employees. In 2023, it's now gone up to 15 employees. Today, it's going towards 20 to 25. And so you're seeing these companies with massive headcount cuts, even in good times, saying it's AI driven, et cetera, or they need to do more. And this delayering where it's like, hey, we don't want you to have 6 direct reports. We want you to have 20 direct reports. And I talk about why this is happening, but the fact I make the suggestion that the train's already left the station, and we actually need to not fight it and help our CEOs move in this direction if this is the direction they want to go. And that got about 4,500 views or something, and some comments. Now the post on the right, I wrote an obituary for leadership development, 1950 to 2030. This got 45,000 views. I don't even know, 100 comments or something. And I talk a little bit about how leadership development, as we know it today, it wasn't around forever. It kind of emerged after World War II, went through some iterations. We have seen through our annual benchmark that budgets and head count have been cut 80% in many cases. And so and it's tongue in cheek, of course, but I'm saying in the next 5 years, even talking about the phrase leadership development will be a career limiter because it's going to have such a negative connotation. And I tease like, well, what comes next? And that got, again, about 45,000 views. So we're going to put up a poll. We're going to spend some time to talk about this. And I hope some of you will raise your digital hand and come on camera. Feel free to chat it up in the chat. But which one do we want to talk about today? Number one priority is delayering, or rest in peace leadership development? Let's see how it goes.
It's
Oh my
tough,
God, so
Kevin.
far it's not even close. You're also ghoulish. You want to just go right to the post-mortem. I don't know. Maybe you're just a bunch of realists. All right. I think 80%. So, Evan, I think we see where this is going. We are going to talk about rest in peace leadership development. I'm going to leave the slide up so that you can kind of scan the top part of that post. Full post is up, on LinkedIn. Dwayne, I don't know if you had a chance to see that post from a couple of weeks ago, but what do you think about this premise that leadership development is actually becoming? It certainly doesn't have a lot of C-level support and might even becoming a negative for brand or career. What are your thoughts?
When I read this post, I was like, he might be onto something, because we think about the battles that we have, right? Most initiatives only move forward in L&D and leadership is in the event you have the enrollment of the C-suite, or else things just fail. However, this past weekend, I've had a renewed sense of this past week, a renewed sense of optimism by this meeting I went to, and I really believe this. I think there might always be a place, Kevin, when when things get bad, they cut budgets, and then it's like the first thing to go, and then they say, "Oh darn, what do? We need more leadership development." So I don't know if it's going to be RD. I think it's just part of the cycle we're in. I think the pendulum will keep going back. We're in this vicious cycle, I believe, that we go on and off, and it waxes and wanes. So I think it's going to be more perpetual that way, of this on and off type of love hate with L&D personally.
Yeah, so you think it's cyclical, just like the economy or something, and we're just
I
in a
do.
long fall, but
I do.
eventually it will turn and the investment will come back, the respect will come back.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that. Who has a thought about this? Right? Just wave your hand viciously or digital hand. And Patsy, yeah, take yourself off mute, Patsy. What do you think?
Well, I think that, we've been salmon swimming up Niagara Falls for a long time. Am I right? So we're trying to get our point across that in order for us to really engage our leaders is we've got to teach them some basic skills. I don't think the catalog thing is really the right answer, but it's going to have to be more experiential type learning. It's going to have to be some mentor. I think we're going to have some more mentor style programs. I think there's going to be some succession planning. But seriously, Kevin, I'm concerned that, the thought of like leadership development, I think it's just going to have to morph into something with a pretty name of some kind, where we get a little bit, and I saw that you're survived by two children, employee experience and online learning catalogs. I think that employee experience, it's just going to need to put some sort of a pretty name to it. So anyway, it's just my 2 cents. I still love the world of L&D learning and leadership development, but boy, it's a big waterfall we're trying to still swim up.
Yeah, Patsy, great comments. And you're right. Like I jokingly talk about survived by employee experience online learning catalogs and tongue in cheek, like those aren't really the answers. And then it's cut off there. But I say there's another claimant to the throne, which is manager effectiveness. Now, manager effectiveness is not brand new. It's just not that well known. I love that concept. I love kind of the science and the specific behaviors, but it never seems to have gotten any traction, at least not yet. Right. But I do feel, do managers need development? Yeah, more than ever, especially if they're now managing 20 people at a time, right? the other thing on the left. But I feel like that phrase, leadership development, has a negative connotation if you're a CEO, CFO, CEO. And if your CEO is different, God bless you. I mean, not everybody's the same. I feel, I'm talking just universally, I think it's been too soft without hard ROI. And in these cyclical times, Dwayne, of like, we really need to drive every bit of profit, they're looking for soft stuff to throw off the boat. More reactions to this. Raise your hand or wave vigorously. we'd love to hear. Yeah, Jeffrey Mills, Virgin Galactic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and just second what Patsy said, just in terms of, um, it's an opportunity for us who work in this field, and I've been doing the leadership development stuff for 30 years or so, and it feels like, we're at this. I know for Virgin Galactic, we're at this um, pivot point that the leadership that got us to where we're at is not the leadership that's going to get us to where we want to be. And in fact, one of the things I'm excited about is for us at Virgin Galactic, we're dropping a lot of that discussion of quote unquote leadership training down to our individual contributors. For most of my career, it's been that top leaders. They got all our attention. We said, oh, we need to get to our individual contributors. We need to get to our shop floor, but we don't have the time. I think it's one thing that frustrates me is I sort of feel like sometimes I look at the material we're presenting in leadership training and I go, oh, this is the same stuff I was doing when I first stepped into this field. If you did that in any other industry, I think you would not be invited to the big table.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And loving that jersey, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. Go Phillies.
Yes, I had to represent. And I also think Lorraine is a Phillies fan because she had on the red and white.
Hey, we're getting all the Phillies representation. Must be the Phillies Karen thing going. Hey, where did Nikki from BMW? Can I have you unmute? You had a really great comment in the chat that I think gets to the heart of this.
Measuring objective behaviors or having objective measurement.
Right.
I think we have to change the conversation completely. We do things for a result. So how are we truly aligned to the business? And what are the behaviors that we want to see people develop as a result of what we're doing? And let's measure that. It's subjective measurement because it's based on other people's experiences, but it's that perspective that matters if they're the people following the leaders.
Yeah, that's right. I think and we've covered this, in this forum for a long time, and it comes up in our annual benchmarks that very few of us in this community are doing any level 3 or 4 measurements. And I think even put Kirkpatrick aside, which is again an L&D framework, and just like, hey, C-suite, what is your number 1 priority? What's your top 3 priorities for the next 12 months? How do we support those? And we've seen our friends, over the years where they don't even really use the word leadership development. They talk about it as, I'm forgetting now which organization, but it was basically like rolling out the strategy. So, the senior leaders did their annual leadership retreat, and then it was cascaded down through workshops and conversations and everything else. But it was basically just this strategic alignment, which is leadership development, but they weren't talking about their competency model and how many people showed up or how many emerging leaders graduated. We got 12 in a 50,000 person company. It was very, very specific.
Kevin, I was just going to say really quick is that I've been calling it human skill impact on business goals.
Yeah, love it.
In a way of just making it sound like there is an impact. And if you don't have that, you're not going to reach the business goals.
That's right. Love it. Love it. Anne, I see your hand is up. Yeah. You want to?
Right. Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Thanks.
You got it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
And your internet is chopping up.
I was going to say, so I have a little bit of, oh, darn. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix it. How's it? Anything now? Better?
Give it a try. Let's give it a try. Otherwise, we'll boot you to chat.
All right. Thank you. Was going to say just a little different perspective that I see a lot of heavy weight into the HR department. And like coming leadership development coming out from there. A little bit more.
All right, Anne, we are going to try to come back to you later because you're chopping up.
Is it working? Yeah. Okay.
Sonia,
Got
I'm
it.
praying that you've got better internet connectivity. Why don't you unmute your mic and tell us what's on your mind?
Well, I'm looking, I work for a global organization that has prioritized global leadership, but brought it in-house, leveraging tools and best practices that they've seen globally. And I think in reflection, what I think has started this movement was having the right leaders presenting and sharing the positive impact, the ROI, and presenting it in a way and asking the exact same questions everybody's been talking about is what's the business impact you need? Where is the direction the business is going in? And what do we need to support that? Taking this leadership development out of HR and really making it about talent development, and then presenting the business case that meets those objectives. I think we've come up with it's a program that is continuously being improved and added to, and it appeals to a wide market or a wide group of managers. And what we've done is then we're now starting to empower local HR leaders to reinforce that learning. So yes, there's some structured learning that we're providing, but it is more in line with experiential learning and continuing to follow up at a local level. And so it really was working with our senior executives and saying, hey, what do you need? Because you're calling for it, but you keep rejecting these other ideas that we've thrown out. So tell us what you need and let's find a solution for you.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for that share. I thought there was another hand, but it might have disappeared. If I'm missing it, Evan,
It was
you
me.
can... Oh, there you are, Lori. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was adding to what Nikki said. And I think that the idea of those behaviors is that we need to be at the front runner of identifying where the behavior gaps are. I think we're waiting too long for the business leaders to come to us, say, okay, these are our gaps. Can you help us, establish how do we, but why are we not the ones pushing and doing their own research and looking at and making those connections for them so we become an indispensable part of the business plan? And I think that is a major miss. We have been, order takers, or we're waiting for someone to tell us, or it's great to ask questions, but if we can be those strategic advisors way out in front. And I think that would make a significant shift from where leadership development to where business essential. So
great ad, Lori, and it's making me remember we had Dr. Keith Keating on here who wrote a book about ROI, and in his presentations he talks about it is true that very often, quote unquote, higher up, C-levels, whatever, they'll dictate, like we're the order takers in their mind, like build a workshop on this. They'll even give us the learning objectives, right? Instead of we're having a problem in this area of business, help us figure it out. And so what you're saying is true and often outside of our comfort level or skill set. Like we need to go become friends and trusted advisors, know, like, and trust in the C-suite. And how do we do that? And are we jumping how many levels to get to those? Or how do we get on their radar? And so probably, spending more attention and developing our own skills in a way to become viewed as internal consultants instead of waiting for that to happen. Jessica,
and Kevin, to build
Go ahead.
To build on to that, and I love that statement, that thinking, because one of the ways that, you really have to get that seat at the table is, you're right, sometimes it's a passive role that we tend to play, but you have to really be more proactive and understand, hey, listen, what are our strategies and focus, those strategic imperatives? And once you understand what those are you proactively seeking to find those gaps that you can fill, and then taking that to them, set up that 20-minute meeting and try to get that seat at the table. But when you're more proactive that way, and you're solving that problem, that's how you're really going to get that seat at the table. I so agree with that.
I love that. I love that. We have only about 5 minutes left, and I want to get through our plays of the day and final notes. And I'm going to put everyone in a very uncomfortable position, very uncomfortable, because I need feedback. So what I want to know is, today we tried out this hot take concept. We put up 2 things that seem to kick up a storm recently from online. You vote on one, and then we talk about it. The alternative is we used to do a breakout, put you into a breakout room with 5 other people so you could do a little networking, in that space. If you had to pick one of these, you don't get both, would you do hot take or would you do breakout? Type hot take or breakout in the meeting chat. Come on, Dwayne, you can't pick two. You gotta pick one. It's your last COP and you can only do one or the other. They're both good, I know.
There's all these hot takes. This is called recency bias.
Good point. That's a good point. That's fair. And we should have done, at least we could have done a breakout and a hot take and then chosen. No one's experienced the breakout.
Can you only
And
vote
how many
once?
people, anyone who's ever been in your breakout, Dwayne, we know what they'd vote for, right? So that's more bias. That's not recency bias, that's best bias. All right, please vote. We are interested in what you think of this new segment. And with our remaining minutes, I'm going to move fast. Oh, if you want to see more of these conversations online, if we're not already connected, just snap this QR code with your phone and connect. Let's get connected on LinkedIn, and then you'll see these posts in real time. Okay. Did you know that CEOs are focusing on span of control? We already talked about that, but this is the article. Your boss doesn't have time to talk to you in the Wall Street Journal. You're going to get notes and slides, so you can either just take a picture of this URL or wait for it next week. But that was the article that came from. Did you know that men are far more likely to be using AI than women? And this is a problem. So this is the data University of Chicago study that in some cases twice as many men, in this case accountants and auditors, than women are using AI. And it's a problem because people are now hiring for AI skills and experience, and there's projections about that productivity gap. So over time, this could lead to a $2.7 million disadvantage between women and men if we don't close this gap. Now, there's different theories about why this is happening. One theory is that companies are banning the use of AI in the workplace, and men just do it anyway. They call it the good girl theory, that like women are following the rules and the men are just being renegades. The other idea is that many people are using ChatGPT when they don't know what to do or when they're lazy and they don't want to do the work, and that men are basically just lazier than women want a shortcut. That's probably true. I think that's probably true. So we got to fix that. Number 3, have you heard of the new Google 2.5 Nano Banana? It's the latest image creation tool where you can just speak what you want to create. It'll create it, and then you tell it how to change it. Here's what I created in 3 seconds. I said, give me a Philadelphia skyline at night with the LeadX logo on a skyscraper. And it looks like LeadX took over the top of the Comcast tower, and that took about 3 seconds. Looks very realistic to me. Have you created a custom children's book on Google Gemini yet? Anybody have children or grandchildren? Here's how you do it. You'll get these slides next week. So you go to gemini.google.com. That's the Google AI. You click on Gems, and they have a storybook mode. So Google Gemini storybook mode. I put a very simple prompt: create a storybook for my 5-year-old son, Owen, who loves bananas and dinosaurs, include his friend Joey. I just made all of that up. And it instantly created Owen's Rainbow Banana Adventure. And it's a completely color illustrated custom book for your kid. And it even has a button where it can, story time, it will read the bedtime story out loud as well. We are moving into a world where movies and books are just created for each individual. Crazy. And finally, have you heard of the prompt sandwich? So getting the most from AI still has to do with how good you are at prompts. And most people have like 1-sentence prompts. The prompt sandwich says, tell it your goal, tell it the persona it should play, give it context, and then remind it of its goal. So 2 things jumped out at me about this. One was this nice, cute sandwich, like don't do 1-sentence prompts. And so here's an example. My goal is to create an IDP. You're the world's greatest coach. I'm a DISC C type, blah, blah, blah. Create an IDP with monthly action plans. So there's an example. Now, what's fascinating is when I first saw this, I saw this is dumb. You don't need to tell it the goal twice. Turns out these instructions are from ChatGPT, folks. OpenAI said, for some reason, when you state the goal and restate it, it does a better job of delivering what you wanted the first time. Seems silly, but that was a big aha for me. We are at 3 o'clock. Dwayne Bess, the Dwayne Bess, send us out with some love. What's your takeaway this month?
My takeaway today is that, we say that perception is reality, but I would argue that perception is opinion and perceptions are actually reality. It's the aggregate. And we're all authors in the story that we're creating. So I would just say this month, let's please slow down and take time to understand all the authors in this story of life.
I love it. Thank you, Dwayne. Time is our most valuable asset. You guys have been generous joining us this month. You guys have been really generous lighting up the chat room. I didn't get the chance to read it all, but I will go back to it now. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend and see you next month.